Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Citizen exclusive video host, Mpoki Thompson. And as always, we always talk about what is most important in matters of current affairs, but also financial relations. Today, I am with the former board chair of Equity Bank Tanzania, Engineer Raymond Mbilinyi. The conversation today is going to talk about how the bank has been able to scale its growth here in Tanzania and his role as the board chair during that transition. He served for 10 years, but his tenure came to an end. Engineer Raymond, welcome to the Citizen Exclusive.
Thank you very much, Poki, and thank you for having me.
Indeed.
I joined Equity Tanzania at the board level 2015. At that time, Equity Tanzania Limited was still very young, just 3 years old, because Equity Tanzania has been established in 2012.
Yes, 2012.
Yeah. The banking industry in Tanzania is evolving. Currently, we have more than 54 bank and financial institutions, which are registered by the regulator, Bank of Tanzania. And it has been a long journey for 10 years. First and foremost, as a new bank in any country, there's a lot of challenges. You need to understand the market, you need to understand the dynamics. And being a new bank, you have a challenge to introduce yourself so that people can understand you very well. The good thing with Equity, it's a well-known brand within the region.
Yes, it's multinational.
Well established in Kenya, and now it's operating in more than 5 countries. So it was not very difficult. Equity has a very strong culture, very strong culture, saving the SME. And the most important thing, Equity, its vision is to transform the people. That's the most important thing in Equities. How can you transform people in Africa? So all the pillars which were taken by Equity was focusing on that.
Okay.
The journey, as I've said, at the initial stage, it was a bit difficult. It was not easy because you need to understand the clients.
Yeah.
So the initial stages, the bank was not performing very well.
At the moment, we're talking about Equity being a tier 1 bank, and we understand that there are not so many of those in the country because the financial sector is still expanding. Now, let's talk about what were the key milestones during the 10 years that you served as the board chair. What key milestones enabled the bank to move from a tier 2 to a tier 1? Those are critical decisions and the milestones that have helped the bank reach where it is at the moment.
Major transformation for Equity Tanzania Limited has happened in the last 4 years. Okay. When we realized that there are some issues which we need to transform the bank. And that has been a very, very big challenge. First and foremost, to keep the culture of Equity. But second, to get the right people, the right management, the right dynamics at the board level, so that once you have the right people, and a good culture and a good business model, then you can transform. So we have seen in the past 3 years, the profit of Equity Tanzania has been growing, and we managed to change in the last years to come from tier 2 to tier 1 bank.
Yes.
So this is a big milestone, and I think for time being now is to see how Equity will grow from there.
Indeed. Now, we're talking about the profit. You recorded a pre-tax profit of over 600%. This is based also on a drop in the NPLs, the non-performing loans. We understand that for any financial institution, profitability is critical. because, again, revenue is essential to sustainability of the business. Now, can you tell us what has been the biggest contributing factor in the rise in Equity's profitability?
First and foremost, we said now we have to bite the bullet. We realized we had some of the big clients which were not a good client for Equity. So we said we have to face them head on.
Okay.
For those who were defaulting, whether we had to take court cases, we took them to the registration to make sure that that thing had been sorted out. But most important, we need to mobilize the SME. That is the fundamental of Equity, focusing on small and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
So those help to grow the loan book. And most important, it also helped us to reduce the NPL, because for those which we are not recovering, we had to provide. We didn't have a choice. That's why we made loss, but eventually the bank was growing and the NPL came down up to 2%, which is marvelous.
Yeah, you've talked about working with MSMEs. Of particular interest, whenever we talk about business investment in the financial sector, is access to capital for small businesses. Now, it is good to hear that Equity has a particular focus in helping these MSMEs gain access to capital. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What specific strategies have been in line for Equity Tanzania to provide access to finance for MSMEs in the country?
We have a very good business model, which is focusing on how to mobilize the SMEs to understand their business and see how we can grow with them. So through our branches and through the agents banking, which we're using also at the moment, but also most important now, going through digital, we are looking also to give loans, these small loans using the applications, because that is the easiest way to attract these people and see how best you can reach them easily, even on those areas where you don't have branch. But going forward, I think we need to increase also number of branches and see coming up with a bigger strategy which we can cover more and more Tanzania.
Okay, so now Equity is a multinational bank, as you mentioned. It operates in Tanzania, in Kenya, Rwanda, across the region. Let's talk about the Equity Bank's Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan. Now, it specifically targets agriculture and MSMEs. When we look at it from a regional perspective, but also the ripple effect here in Tanzania, how has that broader strategic approach been beneficial to the agriculture sector, but also MSMEs? Because it is very intentional, it is very strategic.
Yes, we have 6 pillars, and one of them is agriculture, SMEs, and cross-border trading. Looking on Tanzania, for example, in trading, looking on Tanzania, we are well located. We are surrounded by 8 countries. So that gives us a very strategic position for cross-border. But for SME, especially on agriculture, you look on Tanzania, agriculture is the backbone of many farmers here in Tanzania. So we participate with other key stakeholders to see how can we understand the needs of the farmers, specifically the SMEs, and find how best we can finance it.
Okay, now let us look at when you're planning the strategic growth for Equity Bank Tanzania, you do so in alignment with the national development agenda from a government perspective. We understand agriculture as the backbone of the economy, but also cross-border trade. We're seeing a lot of investment in infrastructure initiatives undertaken by the government. Can you tell us at a decision-making level, how do you align with government priorities?
It's very important whenever you operate in any country, you need to see how the government is moving. And whenever you have your strategy, you need to align with how the government is planning to do. Right now, you'll agree, Tanzania, we are presenting Vision 2050.
2050, yes.
So those are the documents which we need to look at. We also need to look at the budget of the country to see which are the priority of the government. So we position ourselves in all those key areas. You have mentioned like the infrastructure development. Equity is one of the financial institutions which is also supporting most of the contractors and other key stakeholders in terms of getting the performance bond and other key areas.
Now, when you served as the board chair, you had an advantage because you had also served in the public sector, TIC, TNBC. Now, can you tell us how that shaped your leadership approach? Coming from the public sector, but also you had experience in the private sector, and now you're board chair of a rising financial institution in the country. How did that entire experience come into play as you were leading the bank?
It was a very good combination for me. The good thing which from the public sector, all key institutions which are worked out, they were serving the private sector. TIC is looking for investors who are coming,
Yes.
both internal and external investors who are coming in this country. Looking at Tanzania National Business Council, we were looking on how we can bring together the private sector and the government, where are the areas for improvement. So this gave me an advantage when I went to Equity Bank, when they appointed me to be on the board, to see where are the opportunities, where are the challenges, and how I can help the Equity board to see how we're moving together.
Equity came into the country in 2012, and I
Yes.
believe you only started with 2 branches, but now you have multiple branches. However, those are brick and mortar. And we understand that brick and mortar operations right now in the financial institution, some might argue that they are outdated as services go digital. Now, let's talk about the digital services that Equity Bank has and the vision that you have into expanding the digital service offering, but in both service, but also products as well to the customers.
You're quite You're right. At the moment, if you look, the movement, the young generation which is coming up, they're computer savvy. If you want to reach most of your clients, you have to go digital. And this is one of the strategies which we have at Equity Tanzania to see how we can utilize the digital platform to access quite a number of our clients. And I'm sure going forward, that will also help us to link all the branches with our clients.
Okay, now looking back, we are now celebrating 10 years which you successfully served at Equity Bank Tanzania. However, we understand that those 10 years were not without challenges. Can you perhaps maybe list what were some of the major challenges that you faced, but also how you were able to overcome them and come up with the solutions?
Yeah, yes, it was not an easy journey at the beginning, as I mentioned earlier. There were some challenges, but the most important thing when we entered in the board, we get the support from the group,
Yes.
which is very, very important because they are the only shareholders, and they have to provide capital whenever you have some challenges. So they give all the expertise. So we team up very well with the group, but most important to the dynamics within the board were excellent. We worked as a team, but most important is the people, the staff.
Yeah.
We had some challenges in the past, and we had actually to look for good staff who can take us to the next level. So these are the challenges which we had. But I'm glad to say in the past 4 years, we have been doing very well. and the performance is going on very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the exiting of one board chair means the coming into play of another board chair.
Yes.
What advice would you have to your successor in order to ensure that Equity Bank's momentum is sustainable?
First and foremost is that at this point in time, we are in a good position. We are in the good, not very good, but much, much better than where we're coming from. So the most important thing is to have a good dynamics within the board, having very good cooperation with the group, because we are also getting the support, but most important to have a very, very good support with the regulator, because they're giving us all the guidance how to operate financial institutions, but making sure also the team, the staff, are also motivated, and they are making sure that the target which we give them, they meet their targets.
Good. Okay.
Okay, good to go.
Speaking about the regulator, what are some of the regulatory constraints that you wish the Bank of Tanzania, and also in extension the Ministry of Finance, to address in order to ensure that there is a more conducive environment for businesses within the financial services?
The regulator is doing a very good job. It has been improving year after year. But always there's a room for improvement. We have been getting a very good cooperation from the regulator. But one of the area which I'm sure the regulator is working now is to make sure that the bank is not getting a challenge from untrusted investors or customers. So KYC, know your customer, is very important, but we also depend with credit reference bureau from the regulator. And I think that should be very, very tight to help the banks so that no one who is trying to trade with the financial institution should get a room to do that. That is one area. But the other thing also to monitor the performance of the staff. One of the challenge you'll find, probably one staff is not performing from one bank, and then it can move to another bank. I know through Tanzania Bankers Association, there's a move to give some information and to monitor that. But that is an area which I think can also be improved to make sure the good ones are still working.
Oh, so you're suggesting a regulatory intervention from either the BOT, but that would...
There is,
yes,
even for staff.
Yeah.
Even for the director, if you're not doing good job,
yes,
they will withdraw your approval.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say, there is, but we need also to improve better and better.
Now, looking ahead, what would define Equity Bank in the next 5 to 10 years? You're already privy to the industry. You already know the vision of the bank. What would, as we're looking at how disruption is affecting multiple industries, including the financial services industry, what does the future hold for Equity Bank?
Well, with the current position, with the support which we are having from the group, with the board which we are having right now, very good management which we are having right now, I could see Equity to be among the top 5 banks here in Tanzania. That is my vision, and it's possible.
It is possible.
Because we have the good team, we have the good board, and a very good support from the shareholder, the group.
Indeed, and even looking at the latest financial from the first quarter of 2025, the profit is set to grow beyond 2 trillion Tanzanian shillings. So there's exponential growth year after year. So that means that the environment is conducive.
Actually, quarter 1 is 8 billion shillings. that is a profit.
Yeah,
Definitely.
across the industry,
Yeah.
when you look at all the financial institutions in the country.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
true.
so
It's
that
true.
shows that.
But one thing that there's still room here in Tanzania. The banking institution is only capturing probably 24% of all potential customer.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
so there's still room to
Still
grow.
room. Yeah.
To make all those who are bankable to become bankable.
That's financial access is very critical.
Very, very critical.
Well, engineer, that marks the end of our interview. It has been a pleasure having a conversation with you, and congratulations on serving your 10 years at Equity Bank Tanzania, and all the best.
Thank you very much, Poki, and your team. It has been wonderful serving 10 years with Equity, and I appreciate you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You were with me, Mpoki Thompson, for the Citizen Exclusive. We were with engineer Raymond Mbilinyi, the former board chair of Equity Bank Tanzania. Until next time, adios.